This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the holiday market. There's kind of a lot that goes on during holiday season. There's kind of a lot that doesn't go on during the holiday season. A lot of people get nervous. You know, a lot of doom and gloom. There's a lot of money being spent on holiday gifts, parties, etc. And a lot of people want to know, well, hey, what am I going to do during the holiday season for the market, whether you're buying or selling? So what we like to do is each and every year, we like to give a holiday market update and talk about what you should prepare for as we head into this holiday season. So when does the holiday market officially start? I personally think the holiday market starts November 1st, right after Halloween. Okay, because right after Halloween is when everybody's kind of starting to gear up for being like, oh, you know, I got this going on. We're getting ready to leave town, you know, to go visit so-and-so over Thanksgiving, etc. And, you know, most people think holiday season begins like, you know, Thanksgiving or like the week before Thanksgiving. I really think it begins November 1st is when we enter the official holiday market. So that's my opinion on where the holiday market is. And that goes toward till January 1st. So if I am a seller, what do I do with my listing? I think it has to do with what type of property you have. You know, if you have a very expensive property and you haven't gotten any showings in a while and you've been on the market for a long time, then I'd probably pull the property off the market. If I'm brand new to the market, I'm in kind of like, you know, the outskirts and I'm in a super liquid price point, I mean, you know, I'd probably go on the market. But I think there's a lot of different strategies to take depending on what your property is. I can't use one answer to generalize the entire marketplace. What I can tell you is I will move a lot of my listings to the pockets. So first off, what is a pocket listing? A pocket listing is a listing that's not on the market today, but coming soon, or is only held into what we call as pockets or off-market websites, such as Top Agent Network, which is called as TAN, Zenlist, and now Private MLS, PRVT, MLS is another way. So those are your three big ones you have. And then, you know, some companies have like different little sites and stuff like that, but everybody kind of pretty much uses TAN, Zenlist, and Private MLS for it. So it's just a way to kind of like hide your listing and kind of only keep it to serious showings. A lot of sellers, you know, a big positive about pocket listings, a lot of sellers only want, you know, serious buyers during holiday season. You know, you do get a lot of non-serious. I mean, I got a lead yesterday for a $15 million property. And it was somebody calling and we forewarned them. We always forewarn our clients. And they live in like a very, you know, a place that's not near worth that price. I asked them for proof of funds. They got very violently upset with me, literally violently upset. They probably would have hit me over the phone when I asked for it. And, you know, if I was a weaker agent, I would just have showed those people the place. And if this is holiday season, you got family coming in, you got to clean up your place for 4 or 5 hours if it's a $15 million place. And then you find out it's just somebody going in there to shoot some TikTok content, which happens, guys. That happens. Okay. You know, you'd be very upset. So a lot of sellers right now, they're like, hey, it's during holiday season, so I want to make sure I get serious buyers. So I'm going to go to, you know, the pockets and just kind of only show it if it's somebody that's really like wants and has to buy. Another thing I look at for which properties I determine is in to go to the pockets is price point. So a lot of my stuff in the heart of the downtown markets, you know, and let's call it River North, Gold Coast, Shreveville, Old Town, Loop, New East Side, West Loop, etc. That's above $1 million and has been on the market for at least a few months. I'm going to pull it. You know, there's a trick in the book, okay? So like in order for your property to look as new, okay, as a fresh listing, you have to be off the MLS for 91 days, not 89, not 90, 91 days. And on the 92nd day, you could go live on the MLS and it completely resets your market time. So for my high-end properties, I know, hey, statistically speaking, if I haven't gotten a showing in a month, okay, the odds of me selling in the next, let's call it, you know, 70-ish plus days is pretty low. So let's add another 21 onto there and go into the pockets. So when the market gets stronger for $1 million plus properties, which generally gets really strong at the end of January, I'd rather show up in the best time of year to sell with 0 days on the market than be on the market at the end of January when the market starts to pick back up and have, 600 days on the market, right? So a lot of people, real estate's a game, and if you know how to play the game, you win. And I know that a lot of people who see a lot of high market time, especially in high-end properties that have been sitting there, are going to think there's something wrong on it. They're going to pass on it. And there could be a similar unit that's on the market that just came on and they took my strategy and they sell faster because people are like, well, I think this one's probably better because it's new and the other one's been sitting there. So that's a big determining factor of why I determine which one's going pocket listing. If you haven't had a lot of showings in a long time, okay? If there's a ton of inventory in the marketplace, if there's just not much units in general selling in that area, then yeah, I'm going to really or we've been on the market for quite some time. So like those are the ones I'm going to try to pull and put in the pockets. I got a $200,000 listing in Lincoln Park and you want to list it, like I'm going on the market, So it's just, again, different strategies. Talk to the person that you trust that's running your listing, or if you're thinking about listing, and make sure you develop a good strategy. But during the holiday season, you have to have a good strategy. If I was going to be new to the market, do I go on the market now or go in the pockets? I mean, I kind of answered that, but again, I do think it's important to understand that if you're thinking about going on the market now, look at your competition. How many units have sold even in the past month or the past week that's similar to yours? How many of them are currently active? What do we think the odds are of that to sell now versus after the first year? Because the spring wave starts January 2nd. That's the hottest time of the year, okay, for properties under $1 million, above $1 million in January. So it's like, we got to make sure that you take the right have the right game plan and do the right strategy. Is it better to list during the holidays if my property is vacant since it's just sitting there? Again, it matters on what type of property you have. It's relative. It's, the vacant one's tough because a lot of our listings obviously have people in them. But, the way a lot of sellers will ask me, they're like, hey, listen, my property is going to be sitting there for 91 days vacant. It may cost me $10,000 a month. So now we're talking at least 30 G's I just lost. It's gone. Because, a lot of people are, you're savvy. You understand that, like, there's overhead costs, there's taxes, assessments. If you got a mortgage on it, you got those costs. And that's opportunity costs that you're losing. But I would say, okay, well, let's break it down like a math problem. Okay, this thing sits vacant for 3 months. You lose $30,000. Why don't we drop it $30,000 now, right? And if we drop it $30,000 now, will it sell it? If the answer is no, then we go in the pockets. If the answer is yes, and of course there's no guarantee, but if that's the answer, then we go we go in the pockets. So the reality is that like you have to break down and think to yourself like, what's the path of least resistance? Where do I lose the least amount of money? It's a situation I get into right now too with a lot of sellers when they're like, well, I don't want to take $5,000 less than this negotiation. And I'm like, well, right now the market's crap. We may sit on the market for another 3 months. I'm like, well, I'm not in a hurry. I'm like, well, the place is vacant. And in 3 months, you just told me it cost you $5,000 a month. And now you're out, you're out $15,000 no matter what, or you lose $5,000 now. And I'm not telling you like, don't be happy about it, but like you're losing $10,000 less. So you have to think about like, where am I going to make out the best? Where do I lose the least amount of money? And that's the honest thing that you have to look at when you're listing during the holiday season. Especially if it's vacant. It sucks. It's not like an easy conversation. Nobody wants to have it. I've never met anybody that's like, hey, sign me up. I want to lose money. I'm just a realistic person. Like, listen, like I know what you want to hear. I could like be full of shit to get your business. I mean, I'm a great salesman. Or I could just be like, here's the actual facts and here's what we're dealing with. And let's make sure that we take the appropriate measures to ultimately get you the most money. Don't you have a better chance of selling if other people are pulling? So this is the big question I get, especially from my sellers, is like, hey, like, listen, if everybody else is thinking your mentality and pulling the listing, if I'm the only one on the market, don't I have a shot to sell? You're right. You do. I look at it like if I'm going to the casino, right? We did the casino podcast here, so let's look at it like odds. So it's like, okay, well, my odds to sell in the pockets are probably 10%, okay? My odds to sell on the open market are like maybe like 15%. So yeah, do I boost my percentage up by like 5%? Sure. Yeah, it definitely increases my odds. But if I don't sell, right, and I go into the hottest time of year, which is 91 days from now, and my odds go from 10% in the pockets to 90% in the open market. But if I stay on the active market and I go from 15% to like 50%, right? Because now I just gained an extra 91 days in the market and I didn't sell, I'm going to have to drop the price more. Like statistically speaking, my odds are greater by pulling it. So my immediate odds may seem a little bit greater, but my future odds are worse. And again, I know this sounds crazy, but as a guy that's been doing this forever, One of the reasons why January is my best month of the year every year for contracts pending is because we take this strategy and we pull them and then we sell everything in January. I'm confident that a lot of these listings, well, I mean, honestly, we probably would have got fired from half of them, but also they wouldn't have sold. So at least by doing this, we're selling it. We're going to get the sellers more money. And, it takes a little bit longer, but it's ultimately is going to be the best strategy for the sellers. How do I treat vacant properties during cold months? I mean, we do offer sellers, especially if they're long distance, that we'll check on their properties from. I'm not a property manager. I'm not going to sit there and sleep in the property or anything like that. But I mean, we'll go run the water and make sure the heat's on, and especially if there's like a polar vortex where it's like below zero for a week at a time. Just numerous small things to check on to make sure that a vacant property is okay. Also, if it isn't a property that's active on the market and we are selling it and the sellers are long distance, we normally do like a weekly check just to make sure everything's okay. What about open houses if there's a snowstorm? We've done a lot of these. I will tell you, I have sold one property in my career during a huge snowstorm. But you know what? You don't know. You really don't know when a buyer can come from. I'd assume that, doing an open house during a snowstorm is not going to be a good idea. But also, we can't predict the weather. I mean, the weather people, they're the only people in the world that have a job after being wrong 50% of the time. So, we plan our opens on Mondays and Tuesdays. And we look at the weather, we're not like complete idiots. We're like, okay, well, weather forecast looks okay, and then all of a sudden Friday hits and like, hey, tomorrow morning is now going to be a blizzard. And we have a whole thing. So it's like, we ask the sellers, like, do you want to cancel? And a lot of times they're like, no, because we already got it planned. We're going to be out of the house. So we do them. So yeah, do we do open houses during blizzard? Sure. Do they turn out well? No. But, sometimes it's just part of life. Should I take pictures now or wait till January? Honestly, if you're going to list, I'd take pictures now because January, February, and March are the 3 worst months of the year for weather, and it's super unpredictable, and you just don't know, how much snow is going to be on the ground, et cetera. And honestly, snowy pics usually don't look as strong as non-snowy pics. And lately in Chicago, the weather's pretty much good to the end of November. So, if you're able to do it, I would do it. You also have to factor in holiday decorations. So if you're a big, person that celebrates holidays and you got decorations all over your house, we strongly suggest, getting your pictures done prior to you putting up all of your holiday decorations just because it's easier. How is demand during holiday season? I would say that demand is about 20 to 25% of the demand after the first of the year. Like the first of the year, let's say after the first year, we call demand 100%. Today, I would call the demand like 25%. And again, I'm a big numbers guy. It's actually probably lower. I mean, we averaged 20 showings last week, and this is like the last week of October, okay? So we averaged 20 showings last week. I averaged like 40 to 50 showings on a Saturday during busy season, okay? So think about that. We can average 40 or 50 showings on a Saturday during busy season, and we're doing like 20 showings a week at the end of October. Talk about a difference, okay? It's like a different world. And it happens every year. It's all doom and gloom, Chicken Little, world's going to end it right now. And after the first year, every person I run into is like, can you believe how hot the market is? It's the best market ever, blah, blah, blah. Right now, every person I'm talking to tells me the world's going to end, the bubble's going to burst, and real estate's done. We're all going to be living in cardboard boxes for the rest of our life. And then after the first year, people are like, let's go buy a mansion. So, it's just a different mentality. Is it better to buy during the holidays or in spring? Best time to buy is now, right now. If you could buy, do it now. Don't give me any excuses. I don't care about what your friends or family members told you. You do it now, okay? Because I'll tell you, and I've told this to people before, when the spring market hits and that same exact property is selling for $50,000 more, and you're like, Matt, you keep sending, and this is going to happen. And I'm gonna show this podcast clip to the buyer when you're like, Matt, why'd they get this for this price in November and October? And I'm gonna be like, well, you didn't have the balls to buy it in October or November because you told me that the market was going to crash, and now we're in February and March. I say this a million times in my podcast. You can't get spring pricing in the fall, and you can't get fall pricing in the spring. So if you're a deal seeker, if you want to feel like you win, you want to feel like you get a little bit of a better price, okay, buy now. Why are November, December such great months to buy? Less demand. It's supply and demand. I went to Eastern Illinois. I didn't create this rule, okay? The people at Harvard and Stanford, all the hoity-toity colleges, the Ivy Leaguers, they created the rule that if you have excess supply and lower demand, that prices go down, okay? So, right now we have higher supply and we have less demand. So, and that's always happens every year during the holiday season. So that's why it's a good time to buy. You're going to pay less. What are my options now as a buyer versus New Year? Right now, inventory can feel a little bit like Nordstrom Rack. Okay, so that's true. So a lot of the properties are kind of picked over. There's some good finds here and there, but overall, inventory is a little bit leaner. So the options are look for the good deals. There's good deals to be had. Kind of look through all the clothing racks and you'll find one. Also look in the pockets and you'll win out and get a better price if you can. After the first of the year, there's going to be the same amount of demand, guys, okay? Because the average consumer that's selling thinks the best time to sell is March, April, May. Okay, not everybody's watching my podcast, so they don't know. But the best time to sell is January, February. So, after January and February comes, you're going to have demand go from 25% to 100%, but inventory is going to stay the same. And, you're going to be sitting there bidding, for the same property you could have got in December for a discount, but you're going to pay an extra 10% premium because you decided to wait. How much of a discount can I expect if I'm buying during the holiday season? It all depends on the price point and honestly the seller's motivation. I got a lot of sellers that are motivated right now. I got a lot of sellers that are like, listen, I don't need to sell. And that's why we pull and put in pockets. If you don't need to sell and you live there and it's not going to cost you anything to hold this and you don't have anywhere to go and there's no overhead costs, then you pull it. But, I will say that on a minimum, let's look at a $450,000 property. Okay. I might be able to get that place for $425,000 today. And I might, and in the springtime, I might have to pay $460,000 for that. That's the type of difference we're talking about. So it's a pretty decent, chunk of savings you can have. I'll never forget, there's a property, I won't name it, but we got fired in the fall last year, and I was begging them to remove the property. I was begging them. I'm like, listen, there's getting no showings. The market for this product right now is shit. We're not going to sell right now. Let's pull it off the market. We got in an argument about it. They fired me. And then in February, they hired somebody else, listed at the same price, and it sold for $50,000 more. And people, I'm sure and I don't even know if the person that fired me watches this, and they're probably like, "Oh, this other guy's a rock star." It's no, it's timing. It's timing. Life is about timing. I always say, give me that product in February and March. Duplex, look at duplex downs. Duplex downs in the fall are impossible sells. They get no showings. Duplex downs, Q1 and Q2, they fly off the markets. So it's again, you have to look at the product, what you're selling. Let's see here. Is January considered a holiday season for the marketplace? No, January is spring. Spring wave starts January 2nd for properties under $1 million. Above $1 million, spring wave starts end of January, okay? But just know that, January is the start of the spring wave. It's when things kind of get a little crazy. Other than negotiation, what are some perks of buying during this time of year? The perks are that you get to take advantage of the blood in the water. When everybody looks left, look right. You don't get rich in good markets, you get rich in bad markets. This is a bad market. This is when you buy. When the worst time to buy is? When everybody else is doing it. When everybody else tells you something. And that's advice for life. They always say the house wins. The house wins because everybody looks at the other way. That's it, guys. What should I expect from inventory? It's going to continue to decline until the end of the year. What if, this is a good one. Home sale contingencies. Are sellers more inclined to take home sale contingencies? So all those buyers out there, they're like, hey, I got to sell my place to be able to buy. This is the time you do that. Do you think any seller is going to want to come on after the first year and the hottest time of the year, okay, when the most multiple bids happen and say, yeah, let's take a home sale contingency, see how this plays out. No. I don't want the 50 offers. Let's take the home sale contingency. Guys, you're selling your house. Put yourself in the seller's shoes. You got 5 offers on your property, okay? 2 of them are cash. 2 of them are loans with 20+% down. And then 1 of them is contingent on somebody selling their place that isn't on the market yet. What are you going to take? And somebody out there may say, oh, you're crazy. 99.9% repeating people are going to take the cash offer above ask price. Okay? No brainer. It's not even and people are like, what about my letters and blah? It doesn't matter. All people care about is the Benjamins, the money. That's all they care about. So people are going to take the money. But guess what? At this time of year, you don't have 5 or 6 other offers. You're the only offer. And you can convince a seller to take the chance on you to do a home sale contingency. So all my home sale contingency buyers, I'm like, listen, if you got to sell your place, this is the time you make the offers if it's got to be contingent right now. Because we're not going to be able to have this opportunity again until guess what? July or August of next year. Okay? If you think somebody's going to accept a home sale contingency during the hottest time, you got another thing coming. We're going to be having the same conversation in July and August. So yes, if you're in that boat, start looking now. Do I worry about rates with rates being so high? I mean, rates are in the 8s. I mean, who knows what they're going to be when this thing comes out, okay? Reality is rates are high. I've already given my conspiracy theory about them going above 8, and it's happened. I think rates are going to drop during the election cycle, as I've said this like a million times. Who cares about rates? Like just, you're going to have to pay the bank some extra juice, and at some point you refi. Okay. Like, prices and negotiations a little bit better right now because rates are higher. So just like, we talk about this every week. Don't worry about the rates. What are some facts that happened during Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's? So let's look at the market as a whole. Okay. So if you want to win in holiday season, you have to understand the dynamics, the cycles. It's like farming, okay? It's literally like if we owned a farm, we know at different seasons of the year, we have to plant, crop, nourish, pull, plant again, etc. We know we have to do that at different times of the year in order for our family to eat. The market is like a farm, okay? Front part of the year, Q1, everybody comes back. People want to buy. Q2, it's like coasting. The market takes off like a rocket ship, or not only just takes off like a rocket ship, but it gets like really, really crazy hot. Q3 is when the market starts to kind of coast and start to cool off a little bit and shifts downwards and hits more of a balanced market. In Q4, it's doom and gloom. It's kind of when we're eating and we're replanting and hoping that we got more food for next year. So we take a look at that and we look at, okay, well, right before Halloween season is when the market starts to kind of really start to die down. It shifts from like more of a balance to a buyer's market. It happens overnight. You go from like 40 showings a week to like 20 showings a week. Okay. And then Halloween season ends and it's like crickets. You're like looking at your phone. You're like, did my number change? It's like my email going to spam. I'm like testing people. I'm like, hey, did you get this? Just to see if they got my email. Just be like, did something get turned off? And that's when every buyer you see is like, hey, I'm traveling a lot right now. I got a lot going on with the family. Like every weekend I'm at a party getting hammered. I got this Christmas party. I'm going to, Jan's in-laws place and then Jan's cousin's place. And then they're coming to my place. And then my other family's coming in. There's like 16 family members from a different country I haven't seen since COVID, blah, blah, blah. And we're just super busy. So the market gets really, really slow. Christmas hits. And then you go from Christmas to New Year's. And it's like that time of year where like people don't know if it's Tuesday or Saturday. Like normal people don't. Honestly, I always take off. I take a few vacations a year. I take 2 vacations a year. But my second vacation I take of the year is usually, it's for my anniversary. I usually go for a few days away between Christmas and New Year's because I average like a couple thousand emails a day. And on like that week between Christmas and New Year's, like I get like less than 100. Like I'm always like, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like I could sleep in if I wanted to. I wake up and I'm like, dude, I always think my email gets hacked. Like we'll be on vacation and my wife's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like on the phone with Google. I'm convinced every time I'm on vacation that somebody hacked my email because I'm on the phone with Google every time I've ever been away. And I'm like, hey, can you check to make sure that I'm like getting all my emails? Like, yeah, everything's going good. Because normally if I go to bed and I wake, this is no joke. Every night when I go to bed and I wake up, every night I wake up to at least 200 emails, minimum. Okay. I wake up, there's 200 emails in my inbox. Sometimes during high season, there's like 600. I'm like, I just slept 4 hours a night. Where are all these people coming from? Right. Then from Christmas to New Year's, I go to bed and wake up and there's like 2. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, and I always blame it on like the resorts. I'm like screaming at the property manager at the resort. My wife's like, dude, you're a fucking nut job. I'm like, yes, I get that. That's who you married, but I just don't know what's going on with my email. Okay. So Christmas and New Year's, as we know every time, guys, from this little life lesson from me, is that it's going to be very, very slow. Then all of a sudden, New Year's Day hits. New Year's Day is actually the slowest day of the year, hands down, because every culture celebrates New Year's Day if you're in America, so like nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, January 2nd hits, and it's like, bam. Like your email just goes from fucking 0 to 60 real quick. Hey, I just left my parents' place. And I realized I want to buy. Hey, just so you guys know, like, the house, we got people coming to pick up the decorations. We're starting to interview agents. We want to be on the market next week ASAP, blah, blah, blah. Like it goes crazy. So you just kind of have to know how the cycles work and then alter your business model to be able to take advantage of that. So when it happens that you can crush it. Right now, would you consider the market a buyer's or seller's market? Right now, it's a buyer's market. It's always buyer's market this time of year. It's going to remain a buyer's market until January 2nd. How do I expect this holiday season to be? I think this holiday season is to be absolutely god-awful. I think it's to be terrible. I think it's to be atrocious. And guess what? Every single holiday season is terrible and atrocious. So I'm not being dramatic. It just sucks. It's just how it is. I do think this is a little bit of a sixth sense of mine. I do think that like December is going to be a much better month than people anticipate due to it being an election year, due to the fact that I think rates are going to drop, and due to the fact that I think people's rents are at all-time highs and people who are on March leases are going to be bored in December and want to take advantage of the market. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but mark my words, I think December is going to be a little bit better than it normally is. A little bit. Not crazy better, but a little bit. That's all I got for you guys today. If you got any questions on the holiday market, what's going to happen, where the future's going to head, or just you want to talk about like what your favorite Christmas movie is, I'm happy to talk about. Leave me a comment. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.